And we're back. It's Eli. I'm here with Catherine Elliss. We're here to celebrate the launch of her new graphic novel, The Man Who Came Back. Have had a look over it and it's perfect for me. And the reason why I say it's perfect, as a male, I like pictures and I like minimal text, so it's perfect. The themes are relevant for today's climate. So we're just taking time to get to know Catherine a little bit more. I'd just like to ask you, Catherine, when it comes to your writing, would you say you have an interesting writing quirk?
That's a good question. I think sometimes people say that I write too simply.
Okay.
So it seems that there's no wisdom behind it.
Oh, really?
So that has been a positive and a negative. So,
Okay.
for example, the previous book that I published before,
Yeah.
the people that read it were awesome, brilliant, and there was different groups of people that read it, including millionaires, including people who were philanthropists.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know what a philanthropist is, someone who's using their own money to reach out to help other people, especially poor people or disadvantaged people. So sometimes people came back and they bought 2 copies, 5 copies, even 10 copies was the most that I'd, sold again on top of someone reading it. But for other people that hadn't, sometimes that particular one had a focus on, it's called Prosper as Your Soul Prospers.
Okay.
So it's looking at your basic money management from a soul and spirit perspective. So your soul is mind, will and emotions, and sometimes people don't want to look. Like especially now, we're all in isolation, it's during, the COVID-19, and a lot of people are thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have any money and what happened? And whereas what that book is about is looking at, okay, your income minus expenses equals your future, as an example. So if you're not saving, you're heading towards bankruptcy because you never know what's going to happen. And I'm someone who's always saved, but then I've had life has happened so many times, unexpected things, where even though I've usually had 3 to 6 months worth of savings in the bank, at times even that's run out because of different situations.
I get you.
So, yeah.
And how do you get your books published? How does that process work?
Okay, the first 2 books I wrote were actually on love and relationships. So those ones I just did e-copies. And I just did them myself, and that was way before we had iBooks, way before we even had like books on Amazon or anything.
Okay.
So that was just crazy simple. So I don't think I have those available anymore because if they were going to be published, they would need to be tidied up and made, much more sophisticated for the markets that we have now.
Yeah.
But there was still really important content in there.
Yeah.
With the 3rd book that I published, that's self-published.
Yeah.
And that was just going through the process. So I'm the founder of a social enterprise, which is called Imagineering. So you have a vision and then you have your practical solutions, so your steps. So imagine, engineering, Imagineering to a better world.
Yeah.
And with that one, I would look at 100 years back to go to 100 years forward.
Wow.
So what has been successful in the past? So Peter Rabbit, May Gibbs, looking at all these different books. What was the font style? And so different books I go through the process, like what was successful, what do people like? And then what also did we have back then before we had the generations who didn't know about finances or didn't know about certain things. Like we did know and then we didn't know. So it was like we had this base values of what we lived by.
Gotcha.
Of as a family, you work together as a team. You all muck in and you do the dishes, or you all do everything together. But then people didn't do that for a while. So then we had a lot. So part of my background is teaching.
Yeah.
So especially to young adults. So I'd have people that didn't even know how to cook, or people who were freaking because they were getting married, and especially some young women. Not even knowing how to cook, but then too embarrassed to tell their future husband, and just, oh my gosh. Yeah. So we've got all these people growing up not knowing how to do life or run a house or things. So, and I forgot the question.
Yeah, well, I think you just wrapped up everything. It's just giving us a bit of a background of
Oh,
how you created
100 years back to 100 years forward. 100 years ago, for example, we used to teach about financial intelligence, or we would teach about how to run a household, or how to budget, how to cook. And then everything got taken out, until we have all this other stuff, which is, some of it's really helpful, some of it I don't think is so helpful. But so we've got all these people that don't really know what to do to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I like to help empower people, so then they're not overwhelmed by life. They're not overwhelmed by these emotions and then they can't move.
Yeah.
I want to be helping people to have a vision, but then inspiring them, encouraging them, empowering them, giving the tools so then they can take control of their own lives and just be thriving, because we're supposed to be thriving in life.
Love that. And cut.